Hello, everybody. As you know, the past 3 to 4 weeks, a lot has went on, and it took me away from my original idea of having my confessions, which are a lot more juicy than me arguing with Doug about who gets to wash a dish or not. So here we go back to this, and my next confession is, well, not really confession, is I have a half sister and two half brothers, and I have no contact with them for the reasons I'm about to tell you. I did not even know that my mother had been married, let alone have half brothers and half sisters till I was 10 years old. My father didn't know this either, which he should have known for obvious reasons. But I met my half sister twice, and the younger half brother once. But the older half brother I met quite a few times because he came and studied mine engineering, and he would stay with us. And out of the three, he's a quite hard-working, decent person. For posterity's sake, we will call him William, but in reality, his name is William. Okay, my half sister's name is Cynthia, which I have no problem telling this her married name is Cynthia Ruzak. You can search her if you want. Or if you go into the state of Pennsylvania, you can feel her gravitational pull because she's so fat. And then the other one I really had no beef with. His name is Mark. So, the problem with these people begin when I go to take care of my mother, who's slowly wasting away with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. She has a hip replacement that goes very well. And then she decides, I'm going to have everything replaced. Well, it didn't go so well after that. So during this time, she had won from the federal government a VA payments for my stepfather, who was now in a nursing home. I think $18,000 plus $900 a month. Plus, she also had control of his Social Security check. So there's my mother that has no bills to pay for. And she's now in control of about $5,000 a month. So out of nowhere, because the last time we heard from her was 20 years before, my half-sister contacts my mother and says how bad she feels that they haven't connected, and I need help taking care of her, saying that it's more responsibility than one person can handle, and she has foster children she's taking care of that can help, and there's only one of me and 5 of them. And I told my mother at this point that if she goes with my sister, there's nothing I can do to help her. There's nothing my aunt, her sister, can do to help her, or anybody else. If she goes to Pennsylvania, there's nothing we can do. So, my sister goes to Pennsylvania. My mother goes to Pennsylvania. So, I had taken care of her for 2.5 years. After a week of being in Pennsylvania, she no longer accepts her phone calls. Actually, her phone was turned off. So what happened there, I have no idea, but I would guess my sister took it away from her. Okay, so a little bit after this, started to get all these bills to where I was living, my mother's home, because even though she was in Pennsylvania, her credit card and everything, and debit cards and bank account were still, mail was still coming to her home in West Virginia. So one day the police knocked on my door and said that somebody had bought a bunch of mobile phones in my mother's name, and they wanted to go through my mother's financial papers. Well, of course, I told them, no, you'll have to get a warrant. But later I went through these papers that were coming from my mother, and sure enough, there were bills for mobile phones. Coming to my senses, I took these to the police, and they had triangulated the location to, oddly, Western Pennsylvania. I can tell you exactly when. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, there was a knock on my door, and it was the sheriff's department saying that there was a complaint from my mother about me trespassing in her home. Now, remember the old video that I told you about my mother getting a reverse mortgage? Keep that in mind. Somehow, my half-sister had convinced the sheriff's department that my mother had signed everything over to her. But she made one grave error. She did not know that my mother had a reverse mortgage on the home I was in. So she gets caught. She gets charged with filing a false police report. So while she's waiting for her hearing, she makes her bail. She goes back to Pennsylvania. While she's waiting for the hearing, oddly enough, the one witness dies. My mother died. And actually there was a request by the coroner to do an official autopsy, because my mother was in my care for 2.5 years, and her mental health was declining, but her physical health stayed basically the same. She had problems walking on the ankle that she wanted to have replaced. But actually it was stated by the coroner's department that malnutrition and abuse might have been in play and added to her death. So my mother had her grave and everything paid for in West Virginia, and her body was being brought back. I was getting ready to go to the funeral, and just as I was served with papers for protective order from my sister. So I didn't get to go to my mother's funeral, because I did in fact attempt to go to the funeral, and my sister was there and started yelling and screaming and having filed a protective order that we were still waiting to go to the law master for. I basically tried to kill her. I'm not going to hide the fact. I had my hands around my throat. I was choking her, and it took 7 people to remove me from her. Everything went golden. I mean, I couldn't see anything. Everything turned gold. It was, and I don't remember coming to until I was laying on my back with 3 people laying on me and her struggling to catch her breath. And, well, I was taken, of course, to jail for this. And I actually beat the charge, being my own lawyer. This will be another video. But I was in jail nonetheless for 2.5 months before I could make bond. So I make bond and I go back home, and my mother's house is completely cleaned out. Everything is cleaned out of her house. All my stuff, all her stuff, everything. So, at this point I say, okay, I'm just happy not to be in jail. I mean, it's a terrible situation. What can I do? So a few months after this, my stepfather passes. My mother died on January 20th, and my stepfather died on July 13th. It was a Friday the 13th. And they had left everything to my daughter that was involved with the house, and everything financial they had left to my cousin. And they had left a $40,000 life insurance policy in my name to either pay off this reverse mortgage, as you heard me say in other videos, or to take my 25% and give the rest to my daughter. So, my sister goes to the insurance salesman and tries to present a document that my stepfather had signed it over to her. And just like the real estate, just like the bank, she does not know that my stepfather has been incapacitated for almost a year and a half before he passed, and she gets in more trouble. So at this time, she somehow got a hold of a life insurance policy of my mother's I didn't even know about for 15 grand. And she goes to Europe, to Switzerland for 2 months and lives like a queen, comes back to Pennsylvania and gets arrested and did 5 years in jail for this. And 5 years in jail and then 2.5 years on probation. Well, the shocking thing came when we learned about this and learned that she had already been a felon, that her and her ex-husband used to sell cocaine, and she purposely ran a person over for not paying them their money for a cocaine deal. I mean, these are just one of dozens of terrible things that my mother's side of my family have done. My father's side, I can say, is completely boring. Completely, absolutely boring. And how they ever got along for as long as they did, I have no idea. So that's my video today. Like, subscribe, ask me any question you want. But I want to continue with this series because I can't say it's been good, but it's been an interesting life I've had. Like, subscribe, comment. Please donate if you're able to. There's only 1 or 2 people that ever donate to me, and quite large sums of money, and I'm sure they're getting tired of it. So throw me a few shekels and enjoy your holidays, whatever holiday that is. God bless.